Hello, everyone. How you doing? Welcome to the Bitchuation Room Podcast, the live stream, all the things to all the people. How you doing? So good to have you here. It's been a while. I was away for a little bit of time working on my bleach blonde, badly built butch body. So it was a lot of work. It's a lot of work to maintain this. So good to be back. We've got a great show today. Comedian Megan Gailey is back on the Bitchuation Room, as well as Professor Robin DG Kelley back for, it's been a long time. Very excited to have him on. We are going to be talking about a new piece that he wrote called UCLA's Unholy Alliance, all about the repression on campuses across this country and how the political repression is also being used to undermine colleges and universities and progress generally, civil rights, what have you. So I'm very excited. I could literally think of no other person I'd rather speak about, as I've been screaming about this for weeks now. So I'm so honored to have him here. If you are here, what are you doing? You just stop right now and you're going to give this podcast 5 stars on iTunes or on Spotify or wherever the hell you listen to this. You're also going to like and share the stream. Let people know what you're listening to and watching on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday or whenever you've decided to press play. And remember that this Tuesday show is just it's a slice at this point. It's a third. It's a good slice. It's maybe the most delicious slice, but there are other slices of the Bitchuation Room pie. That is a Wednesday show, which is for our patrons of the podcast. It is free to watch or stream 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, same time. We got some lighter stories. I think we will be talking about Marjorie Greene and Jasmine Crockett tomorrow. And then we've got a Friday show for everybody to listen to. Again, it will be up as a podcast. So patreon.com/Bitchuation Room is where you go to support this little labor of love, this small but mighty team who just, crushes it. Also, discounts on merch at bitchuationroom.com. 20% off all merch. What else do you get? You get discounts on the American Prospect magazine, which I write for. You get access to AMAs, which I haven't done in a little bit of time. You get to send me your guest requests, which I have fulfilled many a few guest requests, as well as send me some fun articles that you would like to talk about. I think we're going to be talking about Sam Altman tomorrow and the use of Scarlett Johansson's voice in AI without her consent. Cool. Things are good in the AI world. Everyone's rich. Anyway, with that, why don't we get into this? We're going to do things a little bit different today. I'm going to forego what I'm bitching about because I want to make space for my guests. And we're going to bring in Robin first, and then we'll say bye-bye. And Megan and I, we're going to talk about the ICC report recommending arrest warrants for Netanyahu and an advisor, Gallant, as well as Hamas leaders. We're going to talk about Miss Rachel getting very, very woke on Palestine and then trolled for it. And then finally, Harrison Butker, who I had to get in on this conversation. And since Megan is a sports person, let's find out if she was lured by the diabolical forces to convince her to do stand-up comedy instead of baking. I don't know what else. Or just staying home. Listen, if only, you know what I'm saying? Can anyone actually stay home without working? Any family survive on a single income? DM me. Okay, but with that said, let's get into it. He's a history professor at UCLA and an author whose many books include Freedom Dreams, The Black Radical Imagination, and Hammer and Hoe, Alabama Communists During the Great Depression. Please welcome Robin DG Kelley back to the show.
Oh,
How you
Francesca,
doing?
it's so great to see you. It's great to see you as always.
I know. We meant to like hang in real life
Right,
for like a year now. But you're
right.
always going off and doing incredible important things, taking care of family. And so
Yes.
I'm glad I get you, although I'm scared for this moment for a million different reasons. But you have this article. It just came out from the Boston Review. It's called
Mhm.
UCLA's Unholy Alliance, and you teach at UCLA.
Right.
You write about these attacks that happened on the Palestine Solidarity encampment on April 30th, although then
Mhm.
these attacks followed. I want to talk about like that attack, and I guess want to go back into time in the UCLA's history on this issue. Talk about the attack and then talk about sort of these hearings with presidents and chancellors of universities in front of, Republicans. So let's sort of take it like that. But
Right.
what do you what has speaking out around Palestine meant for students and faculty at UCLA up until this point, right? Like, what
Right.
was the general air and vibe of doing that?
hmm Right. No, it's a great question. I mean, I've been doing this for a very long time, and ever since I've been a faculty member, which is close to 37 years, um, there has always been a kind of Palestine exception, which is to say, when students or faculty speak on behalf of Palestinian liberation or they're critical of Israel, including anti Zionist Jews, they're accused of anti Semitism, they're monitored, they're sometimes doxxed, not in a sort of newfangled way, but simply their names are circulated or put on lists, like on Canary Mission, for example.
Right.
So, in other words, there are consequences for speaking out. But what's amazing is that Students for Justice in Palestine, which has been around since about 1994, they've been continually, consistently raising this question, and it always bubble up in moments when Gaza is being bombed, whether it's 2008-9, 2012, 2014, 2019, 2021. So these are the kind of the ebbs and flows.
Right.
And 2014, we saw literally a kind of early version of what we're seeing now. That is a kind of sea change in terms of more criticism of Israeli policies. You know,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
And you document that. I mean, will you talk about that's sort of the beginning of noticing some of these outside agitators and like with a lot of backing and money. What like talk about, I guess is it David Horowitz's organization, but
right.
who were some of the actors that were kind of buzzing around and monitoring SJP or other or folks and faculty speaking out about this issue?
Sure, there's the AMCHA initiative. There's David Horowitz's organization, which has been doing this for quite some time. Stand With Us. There are a number of different organizations, APAC for one, that
Heard of him?
are, right. They're paid lobbyists and they get support. There's an organization called ICC, which is, the Israel Campus Coalition, I think it's called. But it's basically what they do is they investigate, I should say, students and faculty on college campuses that they believe are critical of Israel,
Sure.
and they collect data, intelligence, which then they then feed to the Israeli security state, which I think is illegal. But they were bankrolled like $9 million to do this work.
The only
And now,
ICC that Israel supports, as
right,
it turns out.
exactly, exactly. And what's interesting too is it's not just Israeli organizations.
Mm,
Some of them are just straight up right wing organizations like Campus Reform. Others are Christian Zionists.
mhm.
And this is one of the things I find kind of tragically comical that Christian Zionists who believe in a new dispensation, in other words, what they're waiting for is they believe the Christians are going to inherit the Holy Land and that the Jews will somehow launch Armageddon. Most of them will die in Armageddon. The rest who are living will then, uh, pledge allegiance to Jesus Christ
Sure.
and become saved. And then suddenly the Holy Land will become what it should be, Christian. And so these are people who are supporting Zionism. And unfortunately, some of the Zionists actually support them. So it's not an accident that you have Christian Zionists who are on this committee right now, this House Committee on Education and Workforce, who are quoting the Bible, right? But basically, they're saying we cannot wait until Judgment Day when the Jews are basically wiped out. To me, that's the highest level of anti-Semitism you can think of,
Sure.
And they're going after university presidents.
Yeah, but that's anti-Semitism later. What about the imagined anti-Semitism now? That's much more important, says the military-industrial complex. But yes,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about. I mean, you had Manu Shafiq, right, being grilled there on the Hill and saying, like, of course I wouldn't want Columbia University to be cursed by God. And whoever, I forgot the congressman actually grilling her, was dead serious. He was not joking about this. She was like taking it all in stride, like, no, of course not. It's like, no, he's serious. He's referring to the Bible to ask you a question about your university. Anyway, let's put that aside for a second, but so one thing that I think is really interesting, and actually, you mention it in your article, CNN did an interesting deep dive into some of the counter protesters, the violent counter protesters who attacked the student encampment on April 30th all night long for hours, resulting in, I've got 150 students assaulted with pepper spray, mace, bear mace. 25 of them ended up in the hospital. They had to go to emergency rooms. I think one person had their hand completely smashed. One person had 14 stitches in their head. I mean, this was not clashes. This was not a little bit of a pushing and shoving. This was, I think in the CNN article, they say, quoting, I believe, a journalist with is it the Daily Bruin, who says,
the Daily Bruin, correct.
Yeah, that they thought that someone might die that night.
Exactly.
So tell me about who came out, because what you talk about is actually there were some of these Christian Zionists, but even more than that, anti-Semites, hate groups,
absolutely,
who are now finding common cause.
Right. So let me just step back for a minute just to remind listeners and viewers that, in fact, the violence began on the day the encampment began, that is to say, Thursday, and then through Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So there's two things that we have to understand before we get to April 30th. One is that we had really, angry young Zionists who showed up, who were, in fact, assaulting some people inside the camp. They were doing it at night mostly, because in the daytime, campus security made some kind of feeble effort to protect the encampment, but they really didn't. So that's one thing that happened, and the numbers increased. The other thing is that the UCLA gave a permit to Zionist organizations to come on campus to set up a huge jumbotron, which is those huge big screen televisions, to face the encampment literally just several feet away from the edge of the encampment, which of course, when you have counter protesters, typically they're at a distance for safety reasons. The permit lasted for 2 hours, but UCLA allowed it to stay, and it became a weapon, became part of the violence.
Wow.
They would show these images of October 7th. They would have people speaking about rape. And of course, students who are not involved in the encampment have to listen to that. Gunshots all day long. And the university never said you can't do that. Meanwhile, if some student can't pass through the encampment to get to class and has to walk around, somehow they're being targeted. And that's what happened. So bring us to April 30th, you have an interesting combination of Zionists with Israeli flags and Proud Boys, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, they're converging together, shoulder to shoulder, throwing bricks, fireworks. They bring knives. One young woman, a black woman, was stabbed in the leg. I saw it.
Wow.
I saw her
Wow.
injury. And they had to fight for themselves. The sad thing is that you have all these cops. They have California Highway Patrol, UCPD, other police officers, LAPD, and they're standing there watching the whole time for 3 hours. They're watching, and then once once California Highway Patrol starts to slowly move in, all the attackers, the Proud Boys, the white nationalists, the Zionists, they walk away. Not one is interrogated, not one is arrested. And that wasn't even the night they cleared the encampment, which was the next night.
I mean, and it shows because that's why you have like almost a month later, CNN doing their own reporting and like, who are these people who've completely gotten away with this violence? Like if we're, but anyway, and I mean, to me, like this was the same night that Columbia was cleared by
Right.
Complete militarized police state in New York City, and where like we remember protesting there and being there.
Exactly.
But damn, have I not ever seen something like that before. But actually, I think the scarier story was happening over here at UCLA, and was the ways that the demonstrators were allowed, just fed to the dogs there and allowed to be brutalized like that. What has been the response? What's been the response from, and I know we can talk about the union of academic workers and their response, but what's been the response from the higher ups, the chancellor, Gene Block? What's his response been?
Well, first of all, his response to the encampment after April 30th set up the next night when he called for its dismantling, its destruction. So that response is very important for setting up what happened afterwards. May 2nd, he puts out another statement saying, well, the encampment had to go. It was creating a source of danger for the campus. Never once acknowledging, right, at that point, who was committing the violence and who was the victim, right? And the next night, I should say that when the California Highway Patrol came, they shot these students with rubber bullets. I saw the injuries on their face, on their heads, chest, and legs. They shot at point blank. They moved as close as 10 feet away and were shooting these kids, and they were unarmed, right? So that's the context. And by the way, Chancellor Block watched the whole thing in real time because there's security cameras coming out of Royce Hall that allows you to see. So, I'm like, why didn't you just run outside and say, stop it? Because of course you don't care about these students,
Right.
So
and
what
can
was
you
the response?
clarify why the CHP was called instead of the
Oh, yeah.
LAPD? Because this is a fun, terrible story.
Well, specifically, why the CH? Well, there's two reasons. Because I think I only mentioned one. I don't mention the other one. One is because the California Highway Patrol, unlike the UCPD, is authorized to use rubber bullets. The University of California police can't use rubber bullets, so they need someone. The other thing is that there was a fight, which I don't mention in the article, a struggle between Karen Bass, who was our mayor,
right,
and Governor Newsom. And Newsom was like, we're going to send in, Newsom's like trying to convince Karen Bass, like send in LAPD. She's like, I don't want to send in the LAPD. Right. They did come, by the way, but she was kind of hesitant to have them intervene. So California Highway Patrol was under Newsom's jurisdiction, and that's how they got there and became the main force. But, Santa Monica police were there, Beverly Hills police were there.
Oh yeah, all the little fiefdoms of rich people cops come out.
Oh, exactly.
Like forces that you didn't even know existed. You're like, what? There's a Beverly Hills, right?
That is true.
Oh my God. See, I think that's really politically interesting for the future and for these young kids who are of now becoming of voting age or are of voting age to remember what Newsom did and to remember what Karen Bass did. Karen Bass is a new mayor here in LA, and I think has run in part in opposition to the idea that we need more cops to fix all the problems. Although, look at how quickly I think she's, like every Democratic mayor, being pulled into just relying on cops, as they all often do.
Exactly.
Anyway, so Gene Block, chancellor of the UCLA, is being called before Congress this Thursday, along with a number of other presidents of universities, in this sort of ongoing grilling about alleged anti-Semitism and the response, right? I mean, the Congress are not asking him, or at least they may, but I don't think they're going to ask him whether he allowed his own students to be brutalized by the likes of the Proud Boys, in addition to California Highway Patrol and everybody else. If only. But I guess I want to talk about what this moment means more broadly. You obviously write about how, two presidents have already stepped down, Liz McGill of UPenn and Claudine Gay of Harvard University, and how the two Republican women leading this, Virginia Foxx and Elise Stefanik, I mean, we've heard them. I've played their clips on this show before, and we've seen the ways that their clear gotcha questions are met with like this shaky leaf, legalistic response. I don't know how to, it's like, and I've been screaming at Robin. I don't know if you've been seeing this, but it's like, do these university presidents who, we can talk about their role, and I think it's not a coincidence that they are women and one is a Black woman, like, but it's like, have y'all not been paying attention to the world, as the Congress as it is? It's crazy, and they will get you on literally anything, even if you tell them exactly what they want to hear on a platter. They don't care about it. They don't care about anti-Semitism. They care about you just groveling, and then it's still going to cost you your job somehow. So it's just so funny that you have like, this like clear gotcha question met with like, oh, let me consult, like, I don't know, let me ask my legal advisors. It's just like, just say no. Just stand up for your students, stand up for your faculty. But that's not a question, but please.
No, that is a great question, which is, they can't stand up for the students. They can't stand up for the faculty because they don't work for students or faculty. They work for the trustees. They work for the donors. And that's why they have all this legal support to basically say the right thing. Otherwise, they lose their job. Our faculty don't have the power to fire. Columbia University, they just had a vote of no confidence that succeeded. But faculty can't decide. The trustees decide whether or not Shafiq's going to go. Our vote of no confidence actually failed for reasons we could talk about. But to go back, I want, if you haven't heard this, Paul Robeson testified before the House Un-American Activities Committee, and it's the most stunning, amazing takedown of that committee. It is the model of what these university presidents should be doing. And I want to tell all your listeners, go back. It's about 11 minutes long. It's the most stunning thing you'll listen to. In fact, I played it for my students to say that's how you respond to a witch hunt. He destroyed them. And so my point is that they're afraid of simply saying the truth, which is, these students are not the ones trying to commit violence. When they say student intifada, they're not saying they want to engage in genocide of the Jews. That's not even true. Intifada basically means a shaking off, right? And they have an opportunity to inform, but they don't do that. They instead allow for the rumors about anti-Semitism to flourish, and then they follow suit. The thing about UCLA, though, which is unusual, is that this was an anti-Semitic attack. They didn't expect that. Like, the right wing didn't expect that. So what did they do? When you read Virginia Fox's letter to Block and to Michael Drake, who's the UC president, she actually puts the neo-Nazis inside the camp, defending the camp. It's a complete invention. In other words, suddenly they get framed as those who are pro-Palestinian. So, and they get away with it. Talk about a gotcha moment. They'll ask a really stupid question, and then when you try to answer, they'll say, "Well, time's up." Right? So that's the only way they could hide, because their real agenda is to protect and shield fascist.
Do you
Protect and
expect
shield your
Gene
own.
Block? Do you expect Gene Block to have watched the Paul Robeson
No,
hearing? Do you think he's
no,
going to stand up a little bit more because if they're trying to pin neo-Nazi agitators who were part of the pro-Israel or the Zionist camp, they're trying to pin that on the Palestine encampment.
right.
Is he just going to go along with something like that?
This is a very difficult situation that he's facing. And this is no defense of him, but um, he's got it. So he has been one of the best in terms of supporting Zionists on campus and criticizing any pro-Palestinian activity. I mean, he's been doing exactly what the right wing of the committee wants him to do. He's been excellent. He should get a medal for that. But he's got to somehow navigate between saying, "Look, I fight anti-Semitism and have done so since I stepped in this position since 2017." I'm sorry, 2007. Is that right? My math is gone. Yeah, 2007, I think it is. And he says, I've been doing this for a long time. But he would then have to say, contrary to the right wing of the committee, that this was an anti-Semitic attack and I failed to protect my students.
Right.
That was the failure. Now, there are people on the committee who are our friends, who actually may not get television time, who are actually going to ask very hard questions, correct questions.
Right.
I won't name who they are, but we know who they are. You know?
Right. I think Rep Omar is on the committee as well.
Yeah, Jamal Bowman.
And Jamal Bowman. And right. And those clips are not going to get played on Fox News or Newsmax. But yeah, and I'm very curious. Obviously, we'll talk about it, but I think I want your theories and your opinions about, as you write, Virginia Fox, Republican of North Carolina, has openly said, this is just the beginning. We're going after universities and colleges for their diversity, inclusion, and equity inclusion programs. We're going after critical race theory. I mean, this is, again, the aim to roll back 60s and 70s progress when it comes to colleges and universities, which was ethnic studies, African-American studies, LGBTQ plus studies, women's studies, all of that, which are seen as, not in service of capitalism or Christian supremacy. So why do it? And I'm so chilled that it feels like liberal leaders, Democrats, and colleges are handing these right-wingers the keys to undo what they have built and undo and throwing their entire, obviously, like we said, faculty and students under the bus for it. It on the precipice of a potential second Trump administration, it freaks the shit out of me. But what are your thoughts on this being this like Trojan horse, like that this bad faith anti-Semitism claim is this Trojan horse to really go after, like Black and brown people, civil rights, and all of the things in the academics that so many have fought for?
Yes, I agree totally. I mean, that's exactly what it is. So imagine they're going after the whole university. They want to do to the national university scene what Ron DeSantis did to New College. That is, eliminate DEI, whatever limits it has. The left has critiqued it for different reasons. They want to eliminate ethnic studies, any critical studies, any kind of critical studies, any discussion about gender difference. They want to go back to biblical studies. But here's the thing. This is the argument that I'm making. Is that the Trojan horse was made possible by years and years of the Palestine exception. So if you continue as an administration to shut down any discussion that's critical of Israel and say that anything critical of Israel is anti-Semitism, you basically you've opened the door wide for this Trojan horse to enter, because you can't say anything, unless you're going to reverse years and years of this position. So that's what's so dangerous. The Palestine exception is not just about Palestine, though remember, we're out here because this is a genocide. That's why we're out here. I mean, that's the reality. That's the thing
Yep.
that's driving this. However, if you continue to maintain the Palestine exception, it's going to shut down any kind of criticism that allows people to use anti-Semitism as a weapon, to weaponize it,
Yep.
which does two things. It makes Jews really unsafe, right? And so because it's basically redirecting, the issue of the critique of anti-Semitism somewhere else. But the other thing that it does, it is a kind of shutting down of any kind of critical discourse, and it makes it harder and harder for us to try to fight to make sure that people don't continue to die in this genocide.
Yeah.
I mean, because ultimately that's what it is. Why do you shut down protests that say that these war crimes and this genocide is something we won't accept? What's beautiful about these young people, though, is that they're not going for the okie doke. They really are not, they're really standing up to the criticism of anti-Semitism. And most of them are these young Jewish kids who just refuse. And they're so great. They're
Yeah.
so fantastic. And it's
Yeah.
also very multiracial, multi-ethnic. It's a new movement.
I mean, I couldn't have imagined, not only when I was a student organizer, this level of a divestment movement across the nation, but also this level of repression, which just shows just how desperate they are to sort of maintain a status quo, to not talk about it, to not call into question the holdings and the investments of these, billion-dollar entities, like universities. But yeah, it is. I think it's really heartening. I had something else to say that I forgot, but I did want to just mention, because you did that, and I know you got to go teach, but that you see, the UAW 4811 in protest of the way that the UC system, especially in UCLA, treated the students, and denying free speech, or doing a stand-up strike in response to unfair labor practices committed by the University of California. This is a tweet: in the course of their denial of historic free speech rights and brutal attack on peaceful pro-Palestinian protests. And I believe that they also have voted to strike. Like, that's just going to,
Yes,
that was just in the last day.
exactly. Yeah, I
So
could
there,
talk about that. I mean,
yeah,
if you
please.
want me to. So the strike has begun. UC Santa Cruz has already gone out. And what it is called a stand-up strike, like the UAW strategy, the auto plants, in that we never know what campus is next. So if the leadership says stand up UCLA, then all graduate workers, TAs, postdocs, they walk off. And then what we have decided to do, we made a pledge to not take up struck work. And that basically means that we're going to continue to teach, but we're not going to have TAs, and we're not going to submit grades until this is resolved.
And what is, and the stand-up strike is in reaction, and what's the demand here, right? Because it's using union power and solidarity to speak about something that isn't about, wages or, whatever it is about worker. I mean, it is about work conditions. It's if you're getting brutalized on your own campus, Robin, if you were out there, or you could have easily been one of the Emory professor who got thrown to the ground, one of many professors who've been thrown to the ground.
Right. Yeah, like also Dartmouth,
Right.
Yeah, no, so here's the demand. It is a workplace issue. In fact, that's a workplace labor practices issue. That's the claim. I mean, it's correct. So what the union is demanding is, first of all, amnesty for all academic employees, students, faculty, staff who are facing some kind of criminal or disciplinary charges for protesting. The right to free speech, right? Divestment and disclosure, which is unusual for any strike to support. So divestment of UC endowment, as well as their foundations, from all investments in weapons manufacturing, military contractors, companies that profit from Israel's war in Palestine, and disclosure, that is, disclose all sources of investment, of funding, which is not available to us. I mean, there's some extended demands as well, like, the boycott. It's not an official demand, but one of the demands is to basically continue to boycott Israeli institutions that are tied to UCLA, and and we're calling for the resignation of Chancellor Block, which some people may say is symbolic because he's about to step down anyway at the end of July. But still, I feel like this is his legacy.
Yeah.
And this is a legacy we've been arguing about for years. I have a whole stack of letters and things that we all wrote to Gene Block over the years saying, no, just stop beating up people for talking about Palestine.
Yeah. Lastly, I remembered what I wanted to say, which is, we did a live show in Portland years ago during the BLM, like a year after, George Floyd was murdered. And, we had Eric Ward of the Western Studies. I can't remember but anyway, his specialty, he speaks about anti-Semitism. And he speaks about the ways that the right uses the myths around, or the idea that like Jews are basically the ones who are doing the great replacement theory, right? They're the ones who are funneling in undocumented immigrants to suddenly vote Democrat and yada, yada, yada. And the idea is because Latinos and I guess to some extent also like Black Americans, they're not smart enough to orchestrate this. It's the Jews, that's the thing. Right. And it's so insidious that now that anti-Semitism is actually being used in reversed in this like twisted, right, dark, I would even call it like a philo-Semitism, like this bizarre obsession with Jews. And now the fake defense of Jews in order to undermine the very things you 2 weeks ago or 6 months ago were accusing Jews of doing, which was creating DEI programs and like, helping the civil rights movement. I mean, to say nothing of, obviously they're full of lies and anyway. And so I think it's so sick and it's so crazy. And it really does speak to how disjointed the state of Israel is, which I believe is a racist, white supremacist, ethno-nationalist state. They would probably agree with a lot of that. And Judaism and Jews the world over, and definitely American Jews. And so I think that's tough. That's tough for a lot of liberal Zionists to really wrap their minds around that. Like, damn, maybe they've been upholding a racist ethno state all of these years and told that that it was somehow part of their identity when it's not.
Right. No, that's true. Philo-Semitism is the best way to describe it. And what's amazing, the analogy I could think of is like, I don't know, I cook, right? So if you brine, I'm a vegetarian, by the way. So I don't even.
You brine your vegetable.
No, I'm talking about, not for me. I cook it for my family. So if you brine like a turkey or some meat or something like that, there's a point in which it absorbs like the salt and the sugar and everything, and then it stops. It can, and then it starts to, kind of expel it because it's too much. And in some ways, I see this development around philo-Semitism as exactly that. After a while, the contradictions get expelled out and become visible. Yeah. And so Israel Israel's policies is responsible in many ways for bringing light to so many emergent progressive Jews who are returning back to, I say returning back, but really drawing on the traditions of Judaism to stand up to Israel. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, who's at the forefront of these struggles? Jewish Voice for Peace. If not now, these are amazing folks who are standing up and saying, we cannot continue the way we've continued because what we're witnessing is, like the Shoah and the Nakba as sort of two sides of the same coin. As, we're not. And so when they say not in our name, they're saying you cannot continue to commit genocide or dispossess people, occupy lands, and take from them, right? and in the name of preserving or protecting Jews, because you're not,
Yeah.
you're making us more dangerous. And that is, to me, the bright side. That's the only bright side in all this, that we're going to
Mm-hmm.
see a sea change, and things cannot go the way they've gone over the last 76 years.
You gotta go, but I have like one final thing, which is
Yeah, sure.
really quickly, because I've been talking about this a little bit, but what is the dynamic that leads to Black protesters, Black electeds, and prominent Black Americans being the most susceptible or sort of like the most targeted when it comes to being labeled as anti-Semitic and doxxed? I mean, you see the students, you see the celebrities, like they are by and large,
Mm-hmm.
Black Americans who are standing in solidarity with Palestine that get the most disciplined. What is that other than racism?
Yeah, well, it's racism. It's also like racism works this way. It's like the low hanging fruit. You
Mm,
know, it's easy. It's easy to create vilification around that. Not that other people are not being accused of anti-Semitism, but you're right. They are often the first to go. But then, we watch enough horror movies to know, like, if there's a Black person in it, they're not going to last 15 minutes.
right.
Never. Never. I mean,
Sure.
sci-fi, they're out in the first 10 minutes.
So right.
So it's
We're
the
trying to
same
create
thing.
Jordan Peele of Palestine movements is what you're trying to say.
Exactly. The only difference is that Jordan Peele actually allows them to survive.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I
Right?
mean.
Exactly. No, you're right. You're right. It's the Jordan Peele of Palestine movement. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm very hard. Although I just have to say one other thing is that at the same time, New York City is a really good example of what happens when you have a police force that's very largely Black and brown, because
Mhm.
those were Black and brown cops that were
Yep.
arresting and beating up folks. And so that's a reality as well as some of the loudest voices supporting Israel, often Black people. You know, so I mean, it goes both ways.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it does. It does go
I
both. All right.
so enjoy talking to you, and your viewers need to know that you're really one of the great organizers and activists from that generation. No, we know that's true. So they may
Thank you.
not know. I know.
No, I have the old comrades on occasionally, and I mean old meaning like we go back, not that you're
Right.
old, to just sort of
I'm old.
prove, I'll have Nora Ericott on and be like, I saw you in the streets and we were all there together. And no, yeah,
Right.
I can, yeah.
It's true.
Anyway, thank you so much, Robin. Everybody, please read Robin's latest article and obviously all
Okay.
of his books. Take care.
Thank-
Thank you guys. And before I bring Megan in, that was lovely. I gotta let you know that we have a sponsor on this show, and it's a sponsor I'm very, very proud to talk about because I have trouble sleeping. I just can't stay asleep. I'll sleep for a few hours, then I'll wake up around like 2 or 3. Usually it's because I have to go pee, and then I can't get back to sleep, and then I just start making like to-do lists, and or I start getting like a children's song in my head, and we'll talk about that in a second, and I just like an hour has gone by until Sunset Lake CBD sleep gummies, which have melatonin, CBD, and CBN, and they're amazing. And they are our sponsor, sunsetlakecbd.com. They've got tinctures. They've got these sleep gummies that I use. They've got like lotions, which I love. They have also focus gummies for CBD during the day that's got ashwagandha root in it, and cordyceps, which I don't think will turn you into a Last of Us zombie. They have relax gummies and all different kinds. So what are you waiting for? I just have to say that. I know it's a stupid thing. I like saying, what are you waiting for? SunsetLakeCBD.com, everybody. Coupon code FRANTIFA at checkout for 20% off your order. SunsetLakeCBD.com, code FRANTIFA, FRANTIFA. Get them sleep gummies. Let me know how they work for you. Producer Paige just said that the focus gummies kind of like were like zinging. They were zinging for her. And I don't know, but she was like lasered in. So again, They work. And with that, let me bring in, for the rest of the show, writer, actor, comedian who's appeared on Conan, The Tonight Show, and Comedy Central. She is a co-host of the podcast I Love My Kid, But. Please welcome Megan Gailey. Megan, you're in the... There you are.
I'm here.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm on a bitch CBD gummy right now.
Okay, good. That's what we need. We need Sunset Lake to create a bitch CBD gummy. Why? What's going on?
No, I don't. I actually don't need that. No, I was sitting in here really enjoying your and Robin's discussion. And Paige was like, "We're coming to you." I'm like, "Don't even bother with me. Just keep Robin."
Yeah. Well, we should have sent you to go teach Robin's history class.
I would have loved that. I love connecting with the youth.
They would have loved it too. Megan, it's so good to have you back on the show. And I set what I was bitching about off to sea, or something like that. But what are you bitching about this Tuesday afternoon?
So I was fully prepared to come in and talk about one thing because I had to go to the DMV this morning. And so I was like, well, that's going to take up, all 45 minutes of me being on this show. And then I was in and out of the DMV in less than 30 minutes.
Whoa.
And so I was like, you know what? For as much shit as we talk about this country, the DMV by my house, 5 minutes from my house was working. I came in contact with multiple different employees. They were all lovely.
Nice.
And then when I was leaving, the line was out the door and I was like, that looks like actual hell. But I had a wonderful time at the DMV today. I just need that on record. So what I'm actually bitching about,
it's like government is good for a few things. Like it still works, actually. You might have to wait in a little bit of a line, but it works. You can go in person. The post office, same thing. And I love the post office. And the line moves and I like all the characters there actually. Yeah. And my favorite though, I think I was in a post office line and there was a guy who had to wait like 30 seconds and he just goes, oh, this is bullshit. And he turns around and leaves. Just like, that's our fucked up like now attitude. You just get on your phone like everybody else. Just look at the floor. Just think of a thing.
Make a friend.
Play a game. Make a friend. Like, I mean, this guy has none, but it was just it's like it's okay to wait a little bit of time.
There's so many interesting elders at the post office.
Love them, yeah.
And they want to talk. So you can talk to
and
them
they're great at giving you a better rate also on your package.
Yeah. So what I'm actually bitching about was inspired by me going to watch a video we're going to talk about later. And one of the comments on the video was, oh, all this uproar about blank and none about Diddy. And I was like, you know what? This thing that we have to be mad at one thing at once is clearly not created by or for women, because I am able to be mad about a lot of things at a lot of different times. And I would say like sometimes we latch on to things that maybe feel a little less than because it's easier for us to take on.
Oh yeah.
But the reality is the Diddy arrest and now video that has come out is so terrifying. And it's almost the level of terrifying I think is taken out of it because there's not sound. We are sort of so desensitized to really horrible images, but to think of how terrified she must have been in that moment to feel as though she was sneaking away while he was in the shower, which is what I'm like kind of filling in because he runs out of the room with a towel.
Is about his ex Cassie, who's it's about the surveillance footage in the hotel of her trying to escape and him coming out in a towel and like beating her, like
dragging her back to the room. It is so vile, so upsetting. And I actually don't know that the reaction has been big enough. Because and maybe that's just because it really is deeply triggering for a lot of people that have been in that situation. But like, I've been watching interviews. There was a very bizarre one with Cameron on CNN last night, and it does. Oh, Francesca,
Oh
you gotta
God,
watch it.
Cameron, where's he been? This so like, hey Ma, no one's heard from you in forever.
Well,
Why do we need to hear from you now?
he's not weighing in. Like, they basically had him on, and he's like, "Wait, I thought I was here to like talk about Cameron," and it's like, "No, you're here to talk about Diddy." And like, where is the rest of the music industry, the fashion industry? Where are all the people? Because it seems like, at least from me being a little girl in Indiana, there was the trial in New York City. There is the death of the mother of his children. There is now the trafficking and all of the just and to be that level of wealth and be charged with anything kind of shows how bad it must have been. I remember there being a story about him beating a USC football coach with a dumbbell at some point. Yeah, when his son wasn't getting enough playing time. Like, this is a bad guy. There seems to be a lot of record of him being a bad guy. And everyone, even remotely close to the situation, is like,
yeah.
And I don't know.
How did you make it through? Like, how did you? I just think it's funny. Like, you know, he thought that if he made it through 2017, he'd be okay. And meanwhile, like, I'm assuming like the feds or the FBI were just building a massive case against him.
Yeah.
And this time it's not going to be a Dream Hampton documentary, although I'm sure there will be documentaries. It's just going to be him actually like facing real justice, hopefully.
Let's hope. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, where is he right now? You know, I mean, he's somewhere where I don't think he can be extradited.
Do we actually not know? Is that the current status of not knowing where Diddy is?
I do not know, but I have not been abreast. I have not been abreast.
Would you tell the Frantifa? Would you tell us?
I would.
Okay, good. I think 50 Cent, who clearly 50 Cent's very involved, and I'm very much a 50 Cent fan, although I know he's whatever. I don't defend everything he's done.
He's got some issues, yeah.
He's got some issues, and I'm sure there's more to come, but he's like putting Diddy's face on a milk carton. 50's like, you know, he's doing a documentary. It's not going to be Dream Hampton. It's going to be 50 Cent's documentary about Diddy. So very curious. There's a whole like, anyway, as if it were rat beef. It's a criminal.
No,
it's criminality, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people that knew, and I think Diddy has a lot of dirt on a lot of people, and it's like keeping some of his. And like, if you're into like weird sex stuff, that's not like that. You got to get over that for the sake of the victims in this, you know? But
oh yeah, that has nothing to do with it. Yeah, I like the idea that someone would be like, "This is kink shaming." I don't think so. But let's get into the week. That's a good thing to bitch about. And yes, Megan's right. You can multi bitch. And Harrison Butker is, you know, like we can also talk about him, which we will. But why don't we get into some other news? This is the week where. So this is the week where the International Criminal Court, the ICC, the prosecutors of which are recommending arrest warrants for Israeli officials, Bibi Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, along with 3 Hamas leaders, I'm not going to pronounce this, Sinwar, Mohammed Daif, and Ismail Haniyeh. And again, these are recommendations to the panel of judges who will decide whether or not they want to issue these arrest warrants. This is their recommendation after digging through a lot of evidence about the amount of war crimes that have been committed. And they threw in, you know, hey, Hamas committed war crimes too on October 7th. So we're going to throw them in there with the bunch. And there is some great analysis from Ali Abdunima of Electronic Intifada that I wanted to read a little bit of. But it's massive. And obviously Netanyahu's freaking out and mad about it. Republicans are, tripping over themselves to defend him. But so is Joe Biden. Biden immediately issued this statement not long after that says the ICC prosecutor's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders is outrageous. And let me be clear, whatever this prosecutor might imply, there's no equivalence, none between Israel and Hamas. We will always stand with Israel against threats to its security. His own administration, he has said that he believes there's been indiscriminate killing of civilians.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't send 2,000-pound bombs, sent a bunch of other weapons, but because he was worried about the indiscriminate nature of killing civilians. So what's interesting about this, Megan, is that throwing in the Hamas leaders, was the ICC's attempt at saying, look, we hold everyone accountable. This is about both parties in this case. And so that's why we're doing it. And Biden takes offense to the idea. How dare Israel even be mentioned in the same breath, Whereas if it had only just been Netanyahu and Gallant, you can imagine that the response would have been like, oh, what about what about the other guys? Right? So that's sort of where we're at. Again, Biden, although he says he wants to uphold international law, although he agrees that we should be, that the ICC has every right to, for example, issue an arrest warrant against Vladimir Putin for the crimes committed in Ukraine, that does not apply here. Now, there's some interesting analysis. I want to take you through this really quickly from Ali Abdunima, who has some critiques of actually suggesting, basically including Hamas in this. He says, and by the way, this is obviously the leader of it is Karim Khan, the prosecutor. It's notable that while Khan explicitly charged Palestinian leaders with torture, the word doesn't apply in the charges against Netanyahu and Gallant, even though there are many credible reports of systematic torture against Palestinians on a horrifying scale, including in closed detention camps. Most glaringly, Khan failed to lay any charges against Netanyahu and Gallant under Article 6 of the ICC's founding Rome Statute, a section that deals with genocide. He only charged them under Chapters 7 and 8, which addresses crimes against humanity and war crimes, the same articles he used against the Hamas leaders. So basically, he charges them under, the prosecutors recommending the arrest under the same circumstances, and effectively, making them equal, which I also take issue with. What is going to be the impact? So the arrest warrants, which still have to be, again, formally issued by the court's judges, will have no immediate impact on Sinwar or Daif. These are the two Hamas leaders whose whereabouts as underground resistance leaders is unknown. Arrest by the ICC is the least of their concerns. As for Hamas Politburo chief Ismail Haniyeh, he lives in Qatar, which is only one of the handful of countries that is not a member of the ICC and is therefore not legally obligated to arrest him and hand him over. But interestingly, he goes on to say that Netanyahu and Gallant will be unable to travel to dozens of countries, again, if the arrest warrant is served, including most of Europe, without fear of arrest. European countries in particular, which purport to uphold international law, will either have to detain them and hand them over to the court or openly defy their legal obligations. The last thing that he goes into, and this is really interesting, is that the United States is not a party to ICC either. So what are we doing here? So effectively, it is the United States getting mad at a bunch of the United States getting mad about international law that they don't even
recognize.
That they don't even recognize. And again, the arrest warrants have not been served. But here, and this is really interesting, here is exchange between Matt Miller, who is a spokesperson for the State Department, and journalists. One of them is Matt Lee. It's always like a Matt Miller, Matt Lee situation, basically asking, if not the ICC, where are Palestinians to go to seek any kind of justice for the crimes that are committed against them? And also considering that Palestine's not a state. And then also, if the United States upholds the ICC ruling against someone like Putin, but not against Netanyahu, doesn't that undermine everything about international law here? And doesn't that undermine the idea that you're going after Putin in earnest? So here is one journalist who's basically, it's a little cut off in the beginning, but who's asking that.
The ICC is a legitimate body, but does this undermine the ICC as a whole? I mean, how do we think about those two things? You guys are still supporting the ICC investigation in Ukraine. yet here you're saying, you don't think they have jurisdiction. But how does that not make an impact on your view of the ICC writ large?
The ICC has done important work over the years to hold people accountable for war crimes and crimes against humanity, and we have supported that work. And that's not changed by the announcement today, but I will say that we do have great concerns about the prosecutor and the steps that he took. And like I said, it's not just because of the jurisdictional question. It would be one thing if we were just looking at a jurisdictional dispute here where the prosecutor believed that he had legitimate jurisdiction and we believe that he fundamentally didn't. That is a legal question that lawyers can argue, as they often do. But ultimately, we look at the way the investigation itself has been conducted, and that gives us added concerns about the actions that he took.
Okay, by the way, Megan, I don't know if you know, but we're still waiting on the United States to do their investigation into whether war crimes have taken place in Gaza or not. Like, the United States swears that they're doing their own investigation, they're looking into it, but really what we know is that they largely and only rely on Israeli military intelligence to tell them, like, no, we didn't do a crime.
Mhm.
We didn't do a war crime. Keep more bombs, please.
Yeah, and even as I was like learning about this ICC ruling this morning, it like I guess at my core I just go, okay, well, when are people gonna stop being killed? And like
Right.
and so all of these sort of the UN, okay, listen, you're saying the right thing, you don't really have the power to do anything, though. And these people that are resigning, yes, you are standing up again. That is not making anything actually happen on the ground where civilians are being killed.
Right.
So I understand that it is obviously important for history and for there to be a paper trail and for people to, especially in positions of power, to say, I do not condone this, this is wrong. But at some point, everyone there is going to be dead. And then all of these rulings are going to go, well, this is what we found. And you know what was actually found? Everyone is dead. So at what point
that's what Israel
happen?
That's what Israel wants, is to be like, hey, well, and they said this is the fog of war. Wait till the fog of war is cleared and everyone is dead. And this is how South Africa, through the ICJ, initially was like, let's stop this. And this is now 4 or 5 months ago that they were like, let's stop this before. Like we were calling it genocide 5 months ago, when it was so clear that we were on pace to hit 35,000. And again, that is a massive undercount of like 90% civilian deaths, if not more. But you're exactly right that some of this is for the history books. But if, let's say, Netanyahu and Gallant are served arrest warrants, they are not able to travel to Europe without potentially being extradited or, arrested. That is incredible. And it would take, my assumption is, it would take Europe being like, well, we're not party to the ICC anymore. Well, we don't want to do that anymore. The ICC was established in part, not just after the First World War, but after the Second World War, in response to the crimes committed in the Holocaust, right? And the entire, as we've talked about on this show with Naomi Klein and others, the entire international human rights framework was developed after the Second World War in response to the treatment of 6 million Jews and more, and so much more. So it's like, it is wild and sick, and once again, so emblematic of how disjointed Judaism and Jews around the world are from this rogue state of Israel, that is flaunting international law in order to ostensibly protect Jews. No, they're flaunting it in order to land grab, in order to colonize, in order to kill.
Yeah, and I guess like I would throw the United States in there with them too. I don't like that we're not a part of the ICC, but even in this scenario, you see how smart it is that the US can go, well, we're not a part of it, so we can agree with what they're saying about Putin, and at the very same press conference say we don't agree what they're saying about Netanyahu. And I think that's why they're not a part of it, is because they want to pick and choose what. And this is every administration, I'm assuming, wants to pick and choose. Like, listen, some of our allies are going to commit human rights violations, and we need to be able to not have international law come into play, because at the end of the day, the United States believes, because they have shown to be above international law.
I mean, what Kareem Khan, this head prosecutor, said, told CNN recently, was that he was told that the ICC is really for African nations and like Russia. Like it's for like those warlords, not our warlords and the ones we deem to be like our war criminals are protected. They're living on ranches in Texas and painting. Like, you know, it's for the other ones. And so, but this is really interesting because I think, you know, recently actually, the UN finally was able to pass a resolution to back Palestinian membership as to be part of the UN and for Palestinian statehood. 12 countries abstained. Obviously, that included Israel and the United States. But so this is Matt Lee, journalist with the AP, basically asking Matt Miller, like, who has jurisdiction if Palestine's not a state? Like, what is is it Israel? Isn't that a conflict of interest if their claims and their the people doing the war criming is Israel itself?
Who does have jurisdiction here?
So the government of Israel has jurisdiction
over the occupied territory.
We have jurisdiction
over Gaza, which is not entirely occupied.
They have jurisdiction into looking at the actions by their
so
military
the
personnel.
Palestinians, if they have a complaint, they have to bring it to Israeli courts.
We have jurisdiction, and we
You have
with the
jurisdiction?
use of our equipment.
I'm sorry.
How
do you have
with the
jurisdiction?
use of our military equipment that we have provided?
How do you have jurisdiction?
If you look at the Leahy law, if you look at
that's not jurisdiction in a criminal process. That's
not in a criminal
jurisdiction
process, but it has to do with the determinations that we make and the policies that flow
but
from
that's
it.
not
So, but Matt, long term, you were right that we want to see.
You used to work for DOJ, Matt. Come on. There's no U.S.
I like even this is the same press conference. I'm like, you know, Matt went home and was like, "Whoo, I've had a tough day at work."
Yeah, no, Matt Miller is such a punching bag, and he also gives every answer with a smile, because he kind of knows he's having his ass handed to him, and he's like, I might smile while it's happening. And he knows that like Matt Lee is very smart and like is pushing back, and he's correct. He's like, and he's even conceded points to him. It's very funny. So let's finish this.
Not have jurisdiction.
There are different. I wasn't referring to criminal jurisdiction, Matt. There are different ways to look at this. Long term, we agree with you that the Palestinian people should be a state.
I wasn't talking about. I was talking about. And then he's just like, okay, fine. Palestine should be a state, but then why don't you fucking vote for it ever? Why don't you ever support it? And by the way, Israel says that will never happen. Netanyahu is completely against a state of Palestine, and then largely the leadership in Israel is against it. So,
did you watch or listen to any of Biden's Morehouse commencement speech?
I have not actually.
Okay,
full disclosure. Tell me about it.
So the valedictorian from Morehouse spoke out. Oh, and just beautifully. And really, like, I was listening to him, I'm like, we got to get him in office, you know, like this is, you know, the kids are all right. And at one point calls for an immediate ceasefire, an immediate permanent ceasefire. And Biden apparently clapped.
Right.
And then got up there and said, did not go that far, obviously, but said there needs to be a humanitarian ceasefire. And so like it's just, and I know you know this probably better than everyone, it's so maddening for him to be sitting up there clapping in front of constituents that he desperately needs to vote for him. Young Black men. If you lose them, you lose. And so he is sort of placating, but then also in every act that he's doing the exact opposite of what he's saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, he's trying to have it both ways a million times over, and I mean, it's par for the course. But we'll see. You know, I do think it's important that there is this record, and I think that it is all making Israel more of a pariah state, which is important. And isolating them, which is important. And the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement rolls on. But one person who, you know, the propaganda machine is very strong, obviously, when it comes to anyone who supports Palestine or talks about genocide or is like, I don't think babies should be killed. How dare you, anti-Semite? And one of those people is now Miss Rachel. And Megan is a parent and so knows who Miss Rachel is. I'm a parent, I know who Miss Rachel is. If you've had a kid in the last 5 years, you know who Miss Rachel is. And it seems like Zionists are coming for Miss Rachel. Now, if you don't know who Miss Rachel is, let me just show you the kinds of propaganda that she puts out on her YouTube page every single day.
Hi. Hello. Can you say mama? Mama. Mama. Let's sing it. Mama. Let's clap it. Mama. Let's sign it. Mama. Good job. Clapping. This is clapping.
So just pure hate. I mean,
I'm honestly sitting here smiling, and I know that there are some parents that they're like, she's too much for me, but like, I know how much joy she brings my son. And so even when we don't watch like that video anymore, because, he says mama now.
That's the first one, yeah.
Yeah, so now we're on to toddler talking, but she really is so incredible.
She is incredible. She has 9.8 million subscribers on YouTube. And the first thing that people say when they watch her is, number one, is her voice ever going to change? No, it doesn't. But number two, like, I could do that. No, you couldn't.
You can't.
You absolutely, I know you think all it takes is a green screen and some bad animation. You can't do it. Miss Rachel's got the special sauce. She's amazing. And yes, my daughter loves her. And
she also went to school for this. I mean, like, she came up with this because her own child was struggling, and she is highly educated in early childhood.
Yes.
So
in early childhood development. Yeah. She's exactly. So her kid was a late talker. So that's why she does a lot of signing. It's really helpful for autistic kids, just kind of one of these gems. And recently she had this idea, which was to start a Cameo, because she wasn't on Cameo, and raise money for children in Gaza, Sudan, and I think the Congo. And so she's like, I've got this idea. She's never been on Cameo before. She finally got on it. And here is her talking about this. She is, like all of us, online, seeing what's going on in Gaza and rightfully wanting to do something.
Thank you for your help. I am now on Cameo, and all the money raised on my end, fees, tips, it is all going to Save the Children's Emergency Fund for children in Gaza, Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ukraine. We opened it last night, and I took requests for 500 videos, and then we paused it so I can make those videos. And then I believe you can give them your email, so once I do those 500 and it reopens, you will be notified if you want to get one. It's called Messages for Littles to Help Littles. So the messages for these children help other children around the world. I also want to raise awareness about children's rights. Children have fundamental human rights: water, food, medical care, shelter, protection from violence, education. These rights are being violated, and these violations need to stop.
So don't take it from the ICC. Take it from effing Miss Rachel. She has a heart, and 500 cameos, Megan. You know how much work that is?
I know. I get one request every 3 months, and I'm like, oh God, I got to let this expire.
It's so much work, and it's so nice. And so, okay, so she puts that out there, and then
you know what I thought when I saw it? Oof, girl. Good luck. That's what because I saw Sesame Street have to turn off their comments back in the winter. And so it's like, even and I think when you initially see these things, you go, that is incredible. And like that has been beaten out of me, which I don't like, that when I see it, I go, they're going to come for you. And that's a terrible way to have an initial reaction to something that is pure and trying to be helpful in a time when it feels like there is nothing you can do to help.
Nothing. Yes, exactly. And everything will get you labeled an anti-Semite. But so that's exactly what happened. We don't have the comments because she turned off a lot of her comments. But we can only imagine because of the hate, like you said, that Sesame Street got when they were like, killing children is bad. Like, shut up, Elmo. So here she is, and she put this on her Instagram about her just basically crying and talking about how much she was being bullied.
The bullying is so bad. It's so bad. But I can handle this. Saying I don't care about all kids is like, it just hurts so bad. That is who I am. I love my neighbor. I love every child. Imagining for 1 second what a mom is going through, unable to feed her child, or give her child clean water, or keep her child safe. I can do this. I can do this.
I get so fucking mad when I see that. I'm like, you sons of bitches, you're coming for a YouTube children's star. And I love that she gives herself this pep talk, because she's like, there are moms who can't feed their kids, if there are moms dying, if there are moms who've had to say goodbye to their children who were killed in an Israeli airstrike, I can do 500 cameos and deal with a lot of the backlash.
Mm-hmm. Sadly, this is not the first time that people have come for Miss Rachel and the crew. There is a non-binary performer in Miss Rachel's crew, and Jules. And Jules plays the guitar, sings, and that received a ton.
They tried to cancel Jules.
A ton. I did see a really wonderful TikTok. Sometimes it comes through.
Like, wouldn't it be? Sorry, go ahead.
And it was a biker gang, and it was a guy at the front of the biker gang being like, "If you come for Miss Rachel, you come for us." And then all of them revving their like Hell's Angel motorcycles.
Yes.
So like Miss Rachel has people that have her back, and I
literally riding for her.
I admittedly have not been as outspoken as you, as so many people that I admire. And when I have done it, I really have framed it as being a mom and seeing my own child in every child now, in every grown-up. There's people I used to hate that I go, oh no, there's someone's Conrad. You know, like it's almost like this RFK brainworm that gets in your head that you're like, I love everyone now. And it really does, for me at least, it has made this so much more painful because you see yourself and your child, and even framing things as my own perspective, no winning.
Yeah. In terms of like some of the backlash you might get. Yeah. But it's like, fuck them. You know what I mean? Like at this point, it's I mean, not just history, but like everyone cool is on the side of the Palestinians and against genocide and against any more violence. And that you don't have to be on the side of Palestinians, just on the side of a ceasefire, for the love of Christ.
There's no world where Miss Rachel is not also weeping for the children that were taken on October 7th.
Of course
There's
not.
No world.
Yeah, of course. And here is like, she's not stopping. So it's like, usually what happens is you put out a video, you get trolled, and then you stop and you don't say anything and you just go back to doing what you were doing.
It's scary.
Because it's very scary. And Miss Rachel's not. This is the last, if you guys, some parents are like riding really hard for this segment. Others are like, I don't care. But truly, she is continuing to put out videos. This is what she put out just today.
I saw a picture of 2 babies in Gaza and their thighs are like this small. You can't let children starve. That is not who we are.
So I get very moved by that, because you want to see Miss Rachel happy. She's like a child. Like, I feel like kids stars are always kind of like kids themselves, and you want her to be happy. But it's also like, she can see this, you know?
Yeah.
If she can see this, we can all see this. And in the words of Miss Rachel, if you can't see it, I ask you, where are your eyes? Where could they be? Where are your eyes? Point to them with me. I was yay. So based Miss Rachel. Miss Rachel is gonna be in like a little headband keffiyeh. Like I can't fucking wait. Anyway, let's leave it there. And if she takes that video down for copyright, I swear to God. But Megan, we have a final segment. It's our fun final segment. And look, I think athletes have a lot to say beyond just the pitch or being on the field. Yeah. I don't like when people are like, stick to sports, because it's usually just because they disagree with them. But in this case, I disagree with him. And so I'm going to say, stick to sports. This is my segment, Stick to Sports. Sometimes you don't want to know what athletes think about things. And in this case, that was the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, Harrison, is it Butker or?
It is Butker.
It's Butker.
It is. Yeah. And I was very well aware of him before this speech and always was rooting for him because of that last name. As someone whose last name is Gailey, I see a Butker and I go, I know middle school was tough for you. And so I was like, I'm on Butker's side until I heard Butker utter one word.
And now, were you aware that he was kind of reactionary before this, or does that not really matter? Or
I'm not particularly a Chiefs fan. I'm an Indianapolis Colts fan.
Got it.
So I do try and practice something that like I've termed as conscious fandom, where it's like, yes, I know the NFL is at its core bad. And it is causing brain damage to people. And so what I'm going to do is try and uplift the athletes that are a part of it that I think are really positive for the world.
Sure.
The Indianapolis Colts have an entire activation that they constantly do about mental health called Kicking the Stigma, because our own billionaire owner suffers from addiction and mental health issues. And so that is something that I try and celebrate. And when guys do really positive things out in the community, celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
And when there are negative, bad things happening, also holding those people accountable and saying, this is not right, because I am being a fan of something that I know is inherently not great. So you do kind of need to be like tapped into what's happening in it to try and elevate the good and bring down the bad.
Yeah, I like that. I support that. I appreciate that. I mean, this speech went pretty viral, obviously, for all the wrong reasons. He spoke for, good God, 20 minutes. And he spoke at Benedictine College in Kansas City, or in, I don't know if it's Kansas City or Big Kansas. No, Kansas City is in the others. You know what I'm saying?
Missouri. It's so
Missouri.
Confusing. But then there is also Kansas. I know.
But it's a Kansas college, Benedictine College. And he spoke about a lot of different things. One of which I thought was very funny, was like, kind of like, why don't we respect priests no more? Because they've been touching kids for decades.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. Priests sort of brought this on themselves. So
yeah, you don't look up to the priest in your neighborhood anymore for a reason. But he also talked about like the one of the biggest Catholics, Joe Biden, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, shitting on him. Shitting on obviously COVID-19 vaccine mandate.
He called Pride Month a month of sin. I believe he took issue with IVF and surrogacy, which even the state of Alabama decided to bail out of. So he really it was definitely the clip of him speaking about women and women being called to work in the home as the greatest vocation that they could be called to. That was really what sort of went viral. But he was an equal opportunity shit stirrer.
He really was.
Yes.
It was so boring though. Like yes, there was an equal opportunity and all of the other things. But this, I think, was a distillation of sort of the shittiest remarks and what Meg is referring to.
On an amazing accomplishment. For the ladies present today,
For the ladies, that's my favorite. Like ladies, just opening with ladies. And Megan, you're a comedian, so you know when someone's like this lady comic, or are there like anyone who says ladies is just like, if you're not offering me free drinks immediately after this, I don't want to hear you say ladies in this way.
I also don't like females.
No, females is like, what are we, like a breed of a, you know,
I take offense to females too.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't it's okay. But that's what's hard to be like a lady comic, female comic, women comic.
Just comic. I'm fine with just comic.
Just comic is good. Okay, so to the ladies who are graduating here.
Today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now, about to cross this stage, and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world.
Okay, there is a baby crying. There's a baby crying in the back. There is a mom currently going like, no, absolutely not.
There's a baby going, don't do it.
Yeah, bitch.
I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother.
Speak for her, please.
I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school.
Oh, and then he gives a very blubbery ode to her. A girl you met in band class in middle school, meaning you've had one sexual partner, probably.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. As the streets are talking. And,
are the streets talking?
Oh yeah. There's multiple videos that have gone viral claiming that he had sex with male cheerleaders when he was at Georgia Tech.
Woo! Okay.
Which is not something that, like, you know, listen, I am not from the camp of like, let's out people. Sure. But when you are aggressively saying that people's lifestyle is
slathering your bullshit morals all over everybody.
Yeah. And like, honestly, if you want to have sex with male cheerleaders, like, I think that's awesome. Sometimes so do I. So like, Harrison, we align, I guess. I guess from watching that, I do think he really loves his wife. So
sure. Like, can't you just make this about your wife? Yes! But he's like the diabolical lie, but doesn't really get to the lie. He's implying that the lie is that a job will make you happy. A job. That this is, but actually, chicks really know that like getting married, you know, do. Like I feel like he was like really close to just like singing the wedding march.
It's really so absolutely insane. Men can be homemakers. Being called to be a homemaker, whether it's by a higher power or literally because childcare is too expensive, we all deeply value and know is an extremely difficult job and wonderful, but also women, all people are capable of being parents and pursuing something outside of being parents that fulfills them and makes them happy.
Yeah. Also, rumor has it that not really a rumor, his mom is a physicist who is also a professor.
Yes. So I think maybe he's just mad at his own mom, and maybe didn't want to be a latchkey kid, but like that doesn't mean you need to make this entire college feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, like what are you mad about, bro? Like this is just so weird. And then speaking of anyone can be obviously a homemaker, a parent. So not that look, he's just about as relevant, if not more so, as Harrison Butker. But Eddie Vedder was in Vegas the other night and took this moment he was like calling out his bandmates, and what, as you do. And he went into this like Harrison Butker takedown. It was amazing.
The singer Jessica and the keyboard player Patty, they must not have believed that diabolical lie. That women should take pride in taking a backseat to their man. Okay, I get that. Could be for some people, and there should be pride in homemaking, whether you're a man or a woman. It's maybe one of the hardest jobs, and you should definitely take pride in it. But you shouldn't not follow a dream because you think that is the more that you're gonna benefit by giving up your dreams. I couldn't understand the logic, so I'm questioning it in public right now. It's not a graduation speech, but it's a full house in Las Vegas, so I want to see how you felt.
So I really love that. He does the thing that like rockers do, which is kind of like not really know what they're saying and drone on. But it's like Madonna in between songs where you're like, shut up.
I think he was more entertaining and concise than most stand-up right now. So I think he's doing fine.
That's so true. And like to hear, I fucking love Eddie Vedder. I love Eddie Vedder. And to hear him also, like, he's always been politically relevant and had his like finger on the pulse. And like, it's just nice that like there are still some people who were cool then, are cool now, can change with times, like will always be grunge in a way. And so there he was basically like, I don't think that you have to give up on your dreams, and anyone can be a homemaker and something you should be proud of. It's a hard job. And just like, I love you. That's a real man. And I do feel like if grunge rock were more prominent now, we would have less like sad Andrew Tate thirsty boys who are maybe secretly sleeping with cheerleaders.
Yeah, I wonder what they listen to. That's a really good point.
Well, now they're like, oh, I got to rediscover Kanye,
Oh, okay. All right.
I
guess that makes sense.
Or like Toby Keith.
Are we talking early Kanye? What are we talking here?
I don't know. I stopped listening all the time. The shit that I stopped listening to. They're like into Drake now. Oh, but there you have it. There you have it. Harrison Butker, stick to sports. I think I hear kicking is the hardest job. I don't know much about football, Megan, but apparently isn't the kicker the highest paid and most difficult job on the field?
Listen, kicking can win and lose you games, but there's a reason Patrick Mahomes says that he never talks to this man. And this is a functioning, successful team. As I tweeted last week, Harrison Butker can't even blame CTE. His brain is actually intact, and these are his choices without there being any trauma done to it.
Megan Gailey, thank you so much for being here. It was too short and maybe a little too serious. You are so fun. And where can people find you, listen to you, follow you, see you live?
I am going on tour. I'm doing an East Coast tour. I'm going to be in Boston, June 12th, Burlington, Vermont, June 13th through 15th, Stamford, Connecticut, June 19th, Brooklyn, New York, June 20th, and Philadelphia, June 21st. I will be doing this. One of my vocations is mother. And guess what? My child is coming with me.
Yay! I was gonna ask, because I'm debating also about like whether to bring Karina or what to do.
Yeah.
You're bringing CJ too, whole fam?
So CJ and Conrad are coming for like New York on. They're going to be with me from the 16th to the 22nd. And we also, that means we required my mom and dad to also come. Because Harrison Butker's right. Having a kid is a full-time job.
Yes. It takes a village.
So there will be 4 grown adults to 1 toddler. But that is the trade-off of of saying, I still want to pursue my dream. My parents support it. My husband supports it because he's a badass. My son has never been to New York. We're going to recreate Baby's Day Out. He's going to get in a damn gorilla cage, maybe.
Yeah.
And it is not lost on me how hard it is to like make it out of the house as a parent. If you come to those shows, I will be like so overjoyed. And it has taken so many hours of logistics, even getting to it. And I'm still weeks away from it.
I cannot imagine. I'm looking at like 1 or 2 dates and like, I don't know, I guess we got to rush back home. And can my mom come? It's absolutely that.
Yeah.
Because we know how kids are when you travel with them. Like it's just 10 times harder. But anyway, hats off to you. Everybody go see Megan on the East Coast. And thank you so much for being here. See you next time. I'll take good care. And everybody, I have a little bit of a date announcement as well. No big deal. Ticket link not up yet. But Matt Lieb and I are going to be in Chicago for the DNC. That's right. I am speaking next to Michelle Obama. No, we're going to be doing a live Bitchuation Room at the Lincoln Lodge on Monday, August 19th. And on Tuesday, August 20th, Matt and I are going to do stand-up. We're going to co-headline at the Lincoln Lodge too. So if you're in Chicago or in the area, come get your ass there. The link will be live imminently. But I'm really, really excited. We're going to do a quick little trip turnaround and hope to gather all the fun folks. No guests yet announced, but I'll see who I can grab for the Bitchuation Room Live. Again, Monday, August 19th, to coincide with the DNC. So after you get arrested for protesting for Palestine, you come on over for our show, 7:00. And it'll be great. Again, we're about 3 months out, so you've got plenty of time, and I will be telling you about this every single show. Let's read some comments, and we will F off into the night or to the evening. Some super chats. Thank you so much to Terrence Trumbo, member on YouTube's SF State divested. I'm so proud. I'm an alum. That's amazing. Josh Julie said, seems like there needs to be a hearing representing the protesters. See what comes to light. Never going to happen. I mean, in any... The unequal treatment is so insane, right? Like if they were all pro-Israel protesters who were all Jewish, right? Like I mean, it'd be an experiment to say, hey, anyone who isn't Jewish, don't go to the Palestine solidarity encampment. Just have the the Jewish students go and see what happens. Would the treatment be exactly the same? Probably yes, especially because Israel basically says, oh, if you protest against genocide and you're a Jew, or if you protest the occupation and you're a Jew, you're no longer a Jew. We're going to take that away from you. Les Watts says, when are we getting the bleach blonde butch weightlifters on? I was promised. Robin's a great guest, by the way. One of the best. He's wonderful. The Guardian Jacket, thank you for your super chat, says, burning bush that gave Moses 10 rules was actually Satan. The challenger, this is okay. Okay. I appreciate that. I don't know. I'm not very versed in you're talking about false teachings. Hell yeah, dog. Get at your false teachings. Thank you for your super chat. 0PE, thank you as always, says to shout out to Professor Kelly for always being consistent in these radical spaces for sanity and solidarity with these people. And again, thank you, Guardian. Jeff Curry says, Diddy's hanging out with Bigfoot. Nah, Bigfoot don't want any of that heat. Case Rollins says, protect Miss Rachel at all costs. She's literally raising whole generations, no lie. She is. She truly is. And it's amazing programming. It's very sweet. It's very simple and very sweet and not overstimulating. So many cartoons are like weirdly overstimulating and too much going on. And then you've got Coco Melon, which is obnoxious. Miss Rachel is incredible. Everyone should go watch just to give her some pre-roll ad money. Robert, thank you for your super chat. Says it's kicking off. If Trump is elected, it will be the end of the American century. The empire is dead. Long live the empire. I don't disagree. Omega Shenron Dragon, thank you for your super chat saying, my kids watch Miss Rachel and seeing this was a pleasant surprise. Among all the Zionist and problematic celebs, we don't deserve people like her. Truly, we don't. Like she has more backbone and more morals. And she, like, if you want to pick the mom of all moms, the person who is the most in touch with children, that is her. And if she's saying this is wrong, I ask you, where are your eyes? Matt Gates on a Whitefoot Bronco. I'm a pediatrician and wanted to choke a parent the first time one said I was peddling poison via vaccines. Meeting trolls in real life is jarring. Stay strong. I cannot imagine that. You're like, I'm literally trying to help your child. Rachel Atwood said, has Raffi weighed in recently? Raffi's posted some pro not dying, genociding things, I believe. And Raffi follows me on Twitter and Instagram, but it would be tight. Raffi got a new album out called Penny Penguin. No big deal. It's kind of low key. It's chill. But yeah, Raffi might need to like step it up. But like, seriously, I like listen to Raffi now when I listen to it with my daughter and I start crying because I'm just like, each one is just like the other, a child of a mother and a father. It's just very sad. Marcos the Brazilian says, like me, Franny Fio loves the real football. It's true. I don't follow it nearly enough, but I do generally like football. Willie Gus, Lincoln Lounge is sweet. Lincoln Lounge is very sweet. And I love them, and they're so generous, and I'm really, really excited for being in Chicago. I hope everyone is excited too. Todd Roy wants me to get Miss Rachel on the show. I'd fucking love to get Miss Rachel on the show, girl. I mean, I'm going to share all her stories to my Instagram. But with that, guys, we want to thank all the new patrons at $10 or more. Part of that, part of becoming a Franny Stan, I believe. Becoming a Franny Stan. Thanking you and all the tippers and all the Twitch subs with the fart song. Doing this, am I? No, I'm not. Franny gonna start it over. Gonna thank you with, here we go. Here we go. Fart song. Thank you so much to Miriam for becoming a patron. Thank you so much to Benjamin Morrill also for becoming a patron at $10 or more. That's so generous of you, Ben. Thank you to Mike Boy for Mayor resubscribing with Prime over on Twitch. What's up, Mike Boy? I hope stand-up's going well. Omega Shenron Dragon supporting, resubscribing 7 months strong. 7 months supporting one of the best out there. Great comedian and badass mama. Happy belated Mother's Day and glad to be here to support a pillar. Thank you. Corncob Maestro also resubscribed. 3 months strong. Late Bloomer resubscribed. Says, damn, coming up on 3 years. Was I even doing the show? 3 years? I guess I was. Shit, man. It's been a long time. Coffee Beer Dragon, thank you so much also for subscribing a few days ago. Again, we're going to be tomorrow live, Friday live, all the way live. Thank you to all the new subs. We've officially, hit a goal of mine, which is to have more subscribers on YouTube than Newsbroke did. My first love, the show I hope to one day bring back. So thank you all for helping me get there. That means a lot. And of course, thank you to Paige Olmec, the producer of this show, to Maximilian Inhofe, and to editor Andy Vasoyan. We're streaming Wednesdays and Fridays. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Follow the show on Twitter, Bitchuation Pod, TikTok, and Instagram, Bitchuation Room. And remember to fight the power, to fuck the patriarchy, to free Palestine, and don't just bitch about it, be about it. Bye.